Pre-season games aren't supposed to mean anything. They're exhibitions, fitness runs, commercial tours under bright American lights. The result fades by morning. But one night in Las Vegas, something different happened. Barcelona faced AC Milan, European giants, global broadcast, and over 70,000 fans inside the stadium, expecting superstars. Instead, the biggest performance of the night came from a 16-year-old coming off the bench. No big reputation, no senior resume, just fearless eyes and the ball at his feet. Within minutes, seasoned defenders were backpedaling. The crowd was gasping. Commentators were scrambling for his name. This was the night young Lamine Yamal substituted and impressed the world. Before the world ever saw Lamine Yamal under the Vegas lights, he was already living inside Barcelona like a rumor. At La Masia, he wasn't just another academy kid wearing a Barcelona kit. He was the kid everyone waited to see. The one defenders didn't want in their training group. The one coaches didn't want to hype publicly because hype is dangerous. But their eyes kept betraying them. And Barcelona, this version of Barcelona, needed a miracle more than ever. This wasn't the era of endless money and Galactico-style fixes. This was the era of patches, debt, pressure, headlines, a club rebuilding in public. So when people inside the building started whispering about a skinny winger with a first touch like glue and a change of pace that looked illegal, it wasn't just excitement, it was relief. Because even when Barcelona was struggling to control their present, the academy was quietly manufacturing their future. And the thing about the future is, it doesn't ask for permission. But here's the problem with prodigies. They always arrive too early for the world to make sense of them. To most fans outside Spain, Lamine Yamal didn't exist yet. No big highlights, no loud debates, no international hype machine. And that's how Barcelona preferred it. Because once the world notices you, the world starts pulling at you. So they kept him close, protected minutes, controlled exposure, let him cook in private. But as he grew, it became harder to hide what was happening. In training, he didn't play like a kid learning the game. He played like someone who already knew it and was just waiting for the others to catch up. He wanted the ball, demanded it. He'd receive wide, glance once, and accelerate before the defender even planted his foot. He'd stop-start, drag the ball back, and suddenly, that safe space a defender thought he owned was gone. And the most unsettling part, he did it with zero drama. Just this calm, almost casual confidence that made people uncomfortable because it felt adult. Barcelona had seen teenagers before. They'd seen the legend of teenage debuts. They knew what it meant when the club was forced to trust youth. But this was something different. This felt like discovery, and eventually the moment came where hiding him was no longer possible. April 29th, 2023, La Liga, Real Betis. And Barcelona did something that always makes the football world snap its head around, even if only for a second. They gave minutes to a kid, not a 19-year-old youngster, not a 17-year-old who's been in the first team for a year, not even to a 16-year-old, a kid. Lamine Yamal made his official La Liga debut at 15 years old, 9 months and 16 days. 15. The type of age where you're still supposed to be asking for permission to leave the house, and he's stepping onto a pitch with grown men, with reputations, with careers, with egos. And yes, it was a cameo, a short appearance, not enough time to score a goal or grab a headline. But when you watch players closely, you learn something. Some players touch the pitch like they're visiting, and some touch the pitch like they belong. Yamal belonged. And still, the world didn't explode. Because the world doesn't react to cameos. The world reacts to moments. And Barcelona's fear, the real fear, was that when his moment came, it wouldn't be small, it wouldn't be manageable, it would be volcanic. So they went back to protecting him, back to the slow drip, because one debut is easy to ignore. But what happens when the kid stops being a fun fact and starts becoming unavoidable? And that's what began to happen. In training sessions, team talks, video rooms, Yamal was getting too good to still be kept a secret. And the truth is, Barcelona couldn't afford to be slow forever. The club wasn't living in a safe era. Every match mattered. Every decision was questioned. Every young player became either the savior or the next one ruined. So when Lamine Yamal kept showing up in the conversation, it wasn't because fans demanded it. It was because the football inside the club demanded it, and still, outside Spain, most people didn't know. If you weren't tuned into Barcelona's youth system, if you weren't the type to watch academy clips at 2 a.m, he was still a name that passed you by. But here's the thing, even after that debut in April, even after the whispers inside Barcelona, the world still hadn't felt him yet. They'd seen a name, a stat, a fun fact. They hadn't seen the storm. That was about to change in Las Vegas, with 70,000 fans watching. If Lamine Yamal was still a secret in Spain, America was about to become the amplifier. Pre-season tours are strange things, half football, half spectacle. They're meant to showcase stars, sell shirts and grow brands, but for young players, they can be something else entirely, a test for the squad. Barcelona arrived in the United States carrying more than suitcases. They carried expectations, cameras everywhere, packed stadiums, a new audience that didn't care about academy reputations or age excuses. And waiting for them in Las Vegas was AC Milan, a club that doesn't switch off just because the calendar says friendly. Inside Allegiant Stadium, over 70,000 fans filled the seats. Many of them are neutral. Some of them are seeing Barcelona live for the first time, all of them expecting to watch stars. Nobody came to see a kid. And that's exactly what made the night dangerous. On the bench, Yamal waited as Barcelona's first half came and went. Competitive, tight, but nothing separated them at half-time. The game felt like what it was supposed to be, a pre-season contest, drifting safely toward forgettable. But something was changing. The camera kept cutting to the bench. Commentators started mentioning his name again. The coaching staff glanced over more than once. And then the fourth official stepped forward. The substitution board lit up. A teenager stood. In that instant, the temperature of the match shifted, not because the crowd knew what was coming, but because football has a strange way of sensing when something important is about to happen. Milan's defenders took a look, a quick scan, a shrug, just a kid. He had now turned 16, but from his first touch, the illusion shattered that he was a kid, immediately shattered. Yamal received the ball wide and drove forward immediately, head up. Defender squared, space shrinking, one feint, a burst, past his man, and then he made an outrageous pass to Balde on the other side of the wing. The crowd reacted before they understood why. Next possession, same story. Ball to feet, defender backing off now. Another change of pace, another problem created. This wasn't academy flair, this was senior level audacity. He took defenders on like he'd studied them, like he knew their habits already. Stop-start movements, sharp cuts, the ball never more than a foot away from him. Milan started adjusting. Fullbacks stopped pressing. Midfielders slid over for cover, all for a 16-year-old who had been on the pitch for mere minutes. Then came the run. He picked the ball up wide, cut inside, rode the contact, slipped through a gap that wasn't supposed to exist, and suddenly he was in shooting range. The strike flashed just wide. A collective gasp from 70,000 people. But it was not of disappointment, but recognition. Everyone in that stadium felt it at the same time. Oh, this kid is serious. He didn't score yet, but now the game had a new center of gravity, and it was leaning toward him. The problem for Milan wasn't what he'd already done. It was what might happen if he touched the ball again. And for Barcelona, the question had quietly changed from, is he ready, to something far more dangerous. What if the world is ready for him before we are? By the time Lamine Yamal found his rhythm, the context mattered more than the touches. This wasn't a second-string defense. This wasn't kids easing into fitness. Across from him was a wall of elite professionals. In goal, Mike Maignan, one of the best shot stoppers in Europe, whom he had just audaciously tested minutes earlier. At the back, Theo Hernandez, a defender built like a sprinter and powered like a freight train. Alongside him, Fikayo Tomori, Premier League hardened, fast, aggressive. Ahead of them, men who play Champions League knockouts for a living. And out wide, that was Yamal's lane. 16 years old, skinny frame, no reputation. This wasn't a friendly introduction. This was baptism by fire. Milan didn't greet him with curiosity. They greeted him with force. Theo Hernandez stepped up early, shoulder to shoulder, testing him. The kind of contact meant to teach young players a lesson. Welcome to senior football. Yamal didn't flinch. He took the hit, kept the ball, and asked for it again. The next time he received it, Theo didn't rush. He backed off, because one wrong step against a player with that change of pace is fatal. He could quickly become a highlight reel in the most embarrassing way possible, and that's when the tone shifted. This wasn't a kid running at defenders who didn't care. This was a teenager forcing elite defenders to adjust. Milan's shape bent toward him. Midfielders slid over to mark him. Tomori shaded wide to help. A 16-year-old was warping a Champions League defense into his fingers like it was nothing. The crowd felt it. You could hear the anticipation growing every time the ball rolled toward him. By now, everyone understood now. This wasn't bravery. This was just talent. Lamine Yamal was that good. Then came the sequence that turned curiosity into shock. Yamal received the ball near the touchline. Theo Hernandez charging him down. Pace, power, experience. One of the fastest fullbacks in world football, Yamal didn't hesitate. A drop of the shoulder, a sudden burst. Theo committed and missed. Yamal slipped past him like water through fingers. Tomori stepped across, strong, aggressive, too late. Yamal squeezed through the gap, rode the contact, and emerged facing the goal. A clean sight of Maignan, one of the best keepers in Europe. He struck, but Maignan was equal to it. That was the moment the stadium exploded, because that wasn't a nice try. That was a 16-year-old creating a genuine chance against one of Europe's most physical, athletic backlines. For a split second, Milan looked human, and Yamal looked inevitable. He still hadn't scored. The scoreboard was by now 0-1 in favour of Barcelona from an Ansu Fati goal in the 55th minute. But something far insane had happened. Elite defenders had stopped bullying Yamal and started respecting him. And once that line is crossed in football, there's no going back. When the final whistle blew in Las Vegas, the scoreboard told a quiet story. Barcelona 1, AC Milan 0. Ansu Fati had the goal. The win went into the pre-season column. On paper, it was exactly what everyone expected. Another friendly ticked off the tour. But inside the stadium, and more importantly inside Barcelona's camp, nobody was talking about the scoreline anymore. They were talking about Yamal. Most of the time, football teams don't judge teenagers the way fans do. They don't count goals first and consistency next. They watch posture, decisions, reactions under pressure. And what Yamal had just done wasn't flashy, it was authoritative. This was a kid changing the geometry of the game just like a certain Argentine genius. Back in the technical area, the tone had shifted long before full time. Coaches had stopped giving him instructions. That's always the sign. When a young player needs guidance, you hear constant shouting. When a player understands the picture, the noise disappears. Teammates trusted him now. They weren't being nice anymore. They weren't feeding him the ball to boost confidence. They were giving it to him because it made sense, because attacks flowed better when he was involved. And in the stands, something else was happening. This wasn't a Barcelona crowd. This wasn't La Masia parents or local fans desperate to believe. This was a neutral audience, Americans, tourists, Milan supporters, casual viewers reacting in real time. Gasps, applause, phones coming out, clips being recorded not because a goal happened, but because they were witnessing something different. That's when clubs know, when the neutral crowd leans forward. After the match, the talking points didn't need prompting. Analysts replayed the same moments. This kid is 16? Who is Lamine Yamal? Barcelona has another one. Inside FC Barcelona, the conversation was sharper. Not if he could play senior football, but how soon they could trust him with more. Because pre-season is deceptive. Plenty of players look good when intensity is low, but Milan hadn't gone easy. Theo Hernandez hadn't pulled out of duels. Tomori hadn't slowed down. Maignan hadn't been charitable. Yamal had forced his way into relevance against men who make a living out of exposing weakness. That's not development, that's validation. And suddenly, the protective bubble around him started to crack. Not because the club wanted hype, but because football reality demanded it. But here's the danger with nights like this. They don't just open doors, they remove excuses. And the next question wasn't about his talent, it was about timing. Because if he could do this against AC Milan in front of 70,000 people, what happens when the badge on the other side of the pitch means everything? And the answer was coming sooner than anyone expected. Nights like Las Vegas don't live in isolation, they echo. And the question quietly circulating through the club wasn't romantic at all. Can he do it again? The weeks after Milan were different. Yamal wasn't being handled like a novelty anymore. And then came the next test, a night designed for judgment. The Joan Gamper Trophy, Barcelona's home stage, Camp Nou energy. Fans who wanted to believe but had been burned before. A crowd that knows the difference between promise and performance. This wasn't America, this was home. And now, the kid everyone was whispering about had to show people he was the real deal. What followed wasn't subtle, it was explosive. Barely 10 minutes into the pitch, Yamal didn't just repeat what he'd shown in Vegas, he amplified it. 3 goal contributions, direct involvement, immediate impact. Every touch came with intent. Every movement dragged defenders out of shape. Every decision screamed the same message. This was now against Tottenham, a team that was even in better form than AC Milan, and a trophy on the line. By the end of that game, he had won the Man of the Match award, walking off to a standing ovation. All of a sudden, a pattern was now forming. This time, it was Barcelona's audience realizing something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. They weren't watching development anymore. They were watching the emergence of a next great. With that emergence came a new weight, and the next time Lamine Yamal stepped onto a pitch, he wouldn't be chasing surprise, he'd be carrying it. Today, Lamine Yamal's talent is no longer a question. He's become an unstoppable force of nature, the kind that bends games, warps tactics, and makes world-class defenders look like they're chasing ghosts. The same kid who once stepped onto the pitch in Las Vegas now walks into stadiums with entire defensive plans built around stopping him. And still, when people try to explain when it all started, they don't begin with trophies or rankings. They go back. Back to that pre-season night, back to Milan, back to the substitution. Everything that followed only made that night feel more prophetic. A teenager who didn't just break through, he bulldozed through elite football. The numbers came later. Goals, assists, match-winning performances stacked one after another. Big nights where he didn't just show quality, he carried responsibility. He tore through seasoned defenses. He dismantled teams full of grown men. He dragged his side deep into Europe, almost pulling them to a Champions League final on his own will. On the international stage, he did the unthinkable, winning a major tournament for his country at just 17, standing tall against giants, dismantling France, playing with the composure of a veteran and the audacity of someone who didn't know fear yet. At an age when most players are still prospects, he was already being discussed among the very best in the world. Ballon d'Or conversations, global superstardom, a legacy track that even Lionel Messi hadn't reached at the same stage. And suddenly, the question isn't, how good can he be? It was, how do you stop him? But here's what makes football stories endure. No matter how high Yamal climbed, no matter how dominant he became, no matter how many records he shattered, people keep tracing the line backward. They'd say it casually, almost instinctively. Yeah, he was special, but do you remember that Milan game? That pre-season match in the US? The night he came on and didn't look like a kid at all, because that night didn't show his ceiling, it showed his truth. Before the goals, before the trophies, before the rankings, that night showed a 16-year-old who wasn't impressed by reputation, who didn't flinch at elite defenders, who didn't play like he was borrowing minutes. And everything he became later only made that first impression louder. Legacy is usually built in finals, in medals, in history books, but sometimes it begins somewhere quieter, with a substitution in a meaningless friendly. On a summer night, most people forgot, except this one. Some players announce themselves with a goal, others do it with a trophy. Lamine Yamal did it on a random summer night in Las Vegas, against one of Europe's most physical, experienced teams. He didn't score, he didn't assist, but 70,000 people left, knowing they had seen something rare.